Hey Barry, this is Philip calling from Switzerland. How are you?
I'm good, Philip. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations to your latest movie Mufasa. I just saw around 40 minutes of footage and I can say it looks amazing. It's stunning. Congratulations.
Thank, thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully you feel the same way when you see the rest.
Okay, okay, I'm sure. How did the idea of making a prequel to The Lion King come about?
So the writer Jeff Nathanson, who wrote the script, also wrote the script for the 2019 film that he made with Jon Favreau. And this was an idea that Jeff came up with. You know, I believe that spending so much time with these characters, he just started to explore what else was possible with them. And by doing all this different research into the Lion King universe, or however you want to refer to it, he just realized there was all this stuff, almost like a family tree for these characters that was worth exploring.
Okay. The movie was made purely on computer, I guess. Is it true you don't shoot a single shot by camera, even landscape or something?
Well, it's partly true, but not fully true. We're not out in the world with cameras capturing real grass or capturing, real lions. Everything is created to some degree in a computer, but we actually do photograph things in that same virtual space. I think a way to refer to it is that's why they call it live action animation, is that we create everything to exist in a virtual space that we can inhabit with our cameras. It's kind of what gives it this sort of, to me at least, I feel this the motion, the movement, the blocking that can only be captured when you have a bunch of people in a real environment. In this case, we bring everybody into a virtual space. But yeah, we do have a set and we do have a real camera and we're moving around, or a virtual camera, I should say. We're moving around, filming things, reacting to real stimulus the same way we do with our live action movies.
Okay. So the characters looks amazing, realistic. Here is a short clip of the movie. Did you study some lions or cats to make the movements more realistic?
I didn't, but the animators, they have this whole library, repository that's very deep of how these animals move in the wild. The movie is so dense, the animation sort of like process. And by dense, I mean there's an accounting for every muscle that anthropologically would really appear in these animals' bodies, and they're restricted to movements that only those muscles could actually do. And so that realism, it was great because we had it, and then we had the freedom to sort of bend it or sort of meld it, to our needs, but within reason. And so there always was a reference for whatever movement was happening, in the animation. And so we knew where reality was and where we were bending it. And sometimes we bent it too far, and we had to come back within the bounds of what was physically possible for the animals.
Okay. And I saw on Instagram your dog is also involved on some projects. Tell me about.
Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting. You know what? The funny thing about that image is you actually found an image of a dog who was in the edit room on Moonlight and the film of Bill Street Could Talk.
Okay.
That was one of my editor's dogs. I've since gotten my own
Okay.
dog named Chauncey, who has his own Instagram.
Okay.
And the cool
Okay.
thing about him is I got him at the same time I started this project, and he looks just like the character Mufasa. So he was a great inspiration.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's always good to have an inspiration from the real world to make a movie like this. So, beside all this technical stuff, what was the challenge of a movie like this, doing a movie like this?
I love the way you framed the question because the technical stuff was a really big challenge, only in the sense that, but the technical stuff is always a big challenge, no matter what kind of filmmaking you're doing. You're trying to understand the camera, understand the lenses, so that you can kind of forget them and just capture images. I think aside from that, when you're dealing with characters that have existed for so long, you know the audience has a very direct relationship to those characters, and you have to be mindful and I guess respectful of it, but you still have to, create, in your own voice. The actors who are voicing the character have to create in their own voice. So always sort of being aware of that balance between, taking control, taking possession of the characters, and yet knowing they do exist, and there are certain things that these characters do and don't do. I think that was sort of the biggest challenge because there were some very rich things to be mined, but then some of them you have to realize maybe you were going too far afield of who the character was or as they've been established in the existing films.
To me, it sounds very difficult to handle all the technical stuff and don't forget the story and the emotions. Is this your job as a director to take care that everything comes together?
Yeah, it is your job, and there wasn't a tension between the technical stuff and my job. The medium of capture for this film was this virtual production, which is a very new way of making films. I think, for any director or just about any director on the planet, stepping into this process would be a very foreign concept. You would have to relearn, sort of like the technique of filmmaking and making a film with this kind of technology. And that can be very limiting, but it can also be very freeing because it was so new. There was so much stuff. None of it was etched in stone. And so we began to meld and bend and sort of break the process of using this technology to sort of serve our needs. And once we got to that point where we understood it enough to start breaking it, it really sort of opened up and just kind of fused very fluidly with the way we make films.
Okay. So there is a Disney lab here in Switzerland, in Zurich. May you have heard about. Was Zurich involved in that movie in some way?
No, not for me personally. I mean, I'm sure at some point when the movie comes through, because the movie's, in every territory, it's in the language, of that territory. So I'm sure there in Zurich, there is a whole group of actors, who are voicing the film. I've met with the directors, who are directing those vocal performances, but they're working within the housing of the film that we've created. And yet there is this really wonderful thing that happens. A line may mean something in English, or I should say in American English, and the translation, into the language of your country is going to be a little bit different. And I love that the directors of the dubs in those regions, they have like this freedom, to translate in a certain way the meaning of a line.
Okay. So my time is almost up. Last question. The movie is about two lion cubs and how they change as they grew up. So would you say that one of the messages is that no one is evil born?
I would say that yes, that is one of the main messages of the film, especially because for 30 years we've known that these persons are just good and just evil, and I love that in this film we get to explore how the circumstances of their upbringing maybe led to that good and led to that evil.
Barry, thank you so much talking to us. It was very interesting. Again, congratulations to your wonderful movie, and I look forward to talking to you about another one.
Excellent. I appreciate it, and I look forward to that too.